I am so happy to be here with you all today, cooking eggs on a beautiful day. This is the first time I've ever been to this beautiful farm, and it will not be the last. I can't wait to come back with my son and explore a little bit more. What we're going to do today is talk about eggs and a couple of ways to prepare some simple recipes. I know that some of you might have already brought your egg salad sandwiches or your picnic with you today. I'm going to actually make a recipe that I apprenticed a very long time ago. I've been cooking for about 32 years. And I started my apprenticeship officially in Europe about 27 years ago. And one of the first stops that I made was a hotel in London called the Savoy Hotel. And if you don't know what the Savoy is, it's very old. It opened, I think, in 1888, but it's particularly known for its food, and it's very known for its afternoon tea. And when I started there, I was actually put in charge of making the sandwiches for afternoon tea. An egg salad was one of the biggest sellers. So what I'm going to do for today is to talk about the recipe that I know how to make egg salad and share it with you. It's very similar to everything that you would know in an egg salad sandwich, but maybe the procedure is slightly different. We're also going to start maybe a little bit before that and talk briefly about how to properly boil an egg. And then we're going to finish with a good maritime dish, a lobster deviled egg. Deviled eggs are lovely little appetizers, and there's all kinds of different additional seasonings and flavorings you can do with it. I think, especially in the summer, lobster feels like summer to me, so I thought we would do a little lobster dish today. So let's get cracking. I always have to say that just once. So the first thing I'd like to talk about today is how to boil an egg. Now, I'm sure everyone here has boiled an egg once or twice. Maybe not the little ones, but certainly the adults here have boiled an egg. And there are different tricks, different ways to do it. I'll show you my way and a couple of things that I do to prevent a rubbery white and try to prevent that sort of gray ring that can sometimes happen in the yolk inside, okay? So I've got a little pot of water over here. Because of the wind, it's having a bit of trouble coming up to a full boil, but that's actually not a problem because I actually don't like hard boiled eggs. I like hard cooked eggs. Boiling an egg in a full rapid boil actually makes the whites very rubbery. You want to simmer your egg until they're fully cooked. And for recipes like ours today, a fully cooked egg would be 10 or 11 minutes. I'd say 10 minutes if it's a large size. If it's an extra large size like I have today, I did 11 to 11 and a half minutes. So here's that's the timing of it. Now, in terms of how to cook the eggs, I always carry stuck in my lemon, I've got this little thumbtack here. This is an essential tool in my kitchen. I have it pinned on the side of my cutting board at home, and I just pluck it out very quickly. And on the rounder side, not the pointy side, inside there's a little air pocket. That little air pocket can cause the yolk to break when you plunge the egg down into boiling water. So what we want to do is let that air out, and that releases the pressure and prevents the egg from cracking, okay? That's the first little trick. Second trick, lower your eggs into the water, and as soon as they go in, my method is to simmer them for 10 minutes. Now, as I said, I'm going to do 11. If you put a lot of eggs into the water, the eggs are almost like little ice cubes. They're going to cool everything down. So if you're going to do more than 2 eggs, like I'm doing here as an example, let's say we're doing our egg salad recipe and we're going to do 8 eggs. What you might find is you put all those eggs in, the water's going to instantly stop boiling, okay? So put it in at a big rapid boil, and as soon as the eggs go in, then turn your heat down to medium and let them simmer. That will maintain the temperature of the water for the full 10 minutes. Otherwise, you might find them just a little underdone, which is not a bad thing. But if you want that sort of fully cooked yolk for your inside of your egg salad sandwich, you kind of want it to be at least fully cooked. Doesn't have to be rock hard or crumbly, but we want it fairly cooked. So I'm going to do this little 10-minute timer here. I've probably talked for a minute, but we're going to do 11 minutes to be safe, and I'll just put that over there. Okay. I have obviously cooked eggs in advance because you kind of have to do that with demos. And I haven't cut these in advance because I wanted to show you sort of how to separate them and what we're going to do to create a lovely, textured, beautifully seasoned egg salad filling. I will do the 8 eggs because I think that 8 eggs is kind of a standard recipe for several sandwiches. So, a little paring knife, and the first thing I want to show you is I cooked these yesterday at home, and I did 11 minutes and then immediately plunged them into ice water, okay? So what that does is it shocks the cooking, stops the cooking, but it also does something very important, and I'm going to talk a little science just for a moment. In the white of an egg, there is sulfur. In the yolk of an egg, there is iron. Right now, what's happening in that water is the heat of the water is pushing the sulfur into the center of the egg, close to the yolk. There is a chemical reaction that can occur and will occur between sulfur and iron. That's where the gray of the yolk comes from, okay? If you don't cool your eggs down and allow the sulfur to dissipate in water, which is exactly what I did yesterday, you will get that discoloration. So that's very, very important to shock your eggs in ice water, and even more important to let them sit for at least 15 minutes. In that period of 15 minutes, the sulfur is dissipating into the water and you don't get the chemical reaction. Now that's a big buildup for the moment where I'm going to cut this egg open and hopefully there's no gray. If there's gray, I'll just go. You can finish, okay? All right, let's hope there's no gray. Oh, I'm lucky. So, you can see that when I remove that, it's beautiful golden yellow. But you'll also notice something else. It's not a yellow chalky color all the way through. It's got a bit of a golden, I'm going to say buttery color right in the middle. So they're not overcooked. They're not super crumbly. That would tend to happen if you cooked it for 14 minutes, for example, and even more so if you cooked it for that long and didn't shock it and stop the cooking. So the end result in your salad is going to be a creamier, lovelier texture as opposed to something that's perhaps a little sandy on your palate, that sort of chalkiness that you can get. So what we're going to do now is we're going to dump those yolks into the bowl. This is step 1. I'm going to very quickly cut these open. And in these moments of me doing monotonous little jobs, I can certainly answer questions if any pop into your heads. Feel free to yell them out.
I have a question about when eggs don't actually.
Correct. And you can even leave them in longer, like you can leave them in overnight if you wanted to and make your salad the next day. So it's not going to hurt them. In fact, it'll make them easier to peel as well. Another little trick, and I learned this from Jacques Pepin, my idol, is before they go into the water, you can either crack them or you can even just pour the water out into your sink and sort of throw the eggs around inside the pan to create little marbling cracks in the egg. And then when they go into the water will seep into that, cool it, but it also goes into the membrane and it makes them easier to peel. Now, super fresh eggs, correct me if I'm wrong here, Jill, super fresh eggs can tend to peel a little more difficultly, yeah, so a little bit older is better. But honestly, you can follow all these rules and you can still find that you get a stubborn egg every now and then and they just don't peel well.
Now you said, are you just putting the yolks in the bowl
That's,
and separating them from the white?
that's correct. And we are going to use the yolk. So this is where I differ. My recipe differs slightly from what you might do. So typically, a lot of people would just chop the eggs with the yolks at this point. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just showing you a slightly different version. You're going to find that like all the ingredients that I'm using here are all common ingredients that you would use at home. I'm just assembling it slightly different, and the end result is perhaps a little more vibrantly seasoned and a slightly different mouthfeel, a little creamier. This is also the way Japanese sandwich makers make their egg salad, and they make something like an egg salad softy, and it's exactly this style, but in the middle they have sort of a jammy cooked egg as well, and jammy cooked is kind of what I have, that sort of golden, slightly gelatinous color right in the center, and they stick a whole egg right in the middle of the sandwich. So when you cut through, you've got the salad around it, but then you've got this whole egg right in the middle, and it's very beautiful. So I've got those completed. Let's make the dressing first. Just going to very simply mash these up. and the yolks are going to be a part of the dressing. Now, typically, the dressing would be mayonnaise, touch of mustard, salt, pepper, and that's about it. And that's what I'm going to do as well. The only difference is I'm going to incorporate these creamy yolks that are slightly gelatinous in appearance in with the mayonnaise. I usually just eyeball it. You can sort of guesstimate how much you're going to use. I would say for 8 eggs, about a half a cup of mayonnaise is going to be right. You don't want too much more than that, mostly because you want to have some structure in the bread. I'd say for this amount, a good teaspoon of Dijon mustard. You can put a little bit more. Healthy. I'm using Dijon, but you know what? French's or like hot dog mustard, yellow, is also commonly used, and that actually does add to that sort of golden creamy color. But I do like the flavor of the Dijon a little bit better. Pinch of salt, and that right there is our dressing. Dressing with the yolks combined, okay? Now it doesn't have to be perfect. I've just used a fork. I haven't pureed them. A few little chunks, there's certainly nothing wrong with that. Now here's the next step. A lot of people would perhaps rough chop or mash with a fork the yolks, or sorry, the whites. I usually, at this point, I like to take the time, and this is what I was told very, very clearly when I worked at the hotel so many years ago, that, you know, use a knife, don't use a fork, because this way you sort of are guaranteed to get, again, that texture, a little bit of solids, although properly cooked. So they're not rubbery, they're very tender and lovely. Now, even if I sort of did all of these and put them in a pile and ran my knife through them, that would be fine. Which I might actually try just to speed this up. I'll do it a little bit faster. You can see there's a couple of them have the remnants of a yolk in it. That's fine. And then once we get these sort of to a nice consistency, so you haven't turned the salad filling sort of into total mush, we can add our celery and our other flavorings. So celery is my sort of vegetable of choice. I do green onion, but I don't do any other type of onion. A subtle onion is really needed here because it's the egg that's supposed to be the star. And I think that celery goes well with it, but it also doesn't overpower and it provides that crunch as well. So I'm just going to, at this point, I would just take my knife, run through it, roughly chop like that, just to make sure I don't have any large pieces. There we go. And then into our filling. There we are. Now, in terms of quantity of celery, I'd say for 8 eggs, a stalk, maybe and a half. These are sort of on the smaller side. Also, little trick for this salad, if you can, go into the middle of your head of celery and pick out the slightly pale color ones. They don't tend to be as bitter. Little trick there. And save the outer celery stalks for cooking, soups and whatnot, where it's going to be not eaten raw. And you can, they're sort of finely chopped, but you certainly don't have to be overly fussy with it. If you put too much celery in it, again, it becomes sort of overpowering. But I think that a stalk, I'm sort of guesstimating that those 2 stalks that I put in are more like 1 full stalk at home. And now that I see it chopped, it's about, a little over 1/4 cup, so that's about right. And then the last thing is some green onion. Now, you can put dill. Dill, I was told to put dill in there's my timer. Okay, so the one thing I do not have right at the moment is a bowl of ice water, but I've got some ice water here, but they're not going to be totally submerged. So, actually, you know what I'll show you? I can do this. I'll show you that trick about cracking the eggs. the shells. I don't think it's a problem if I pour this back here. There. You can hear them sort of snapping up, and then they go right into the water from there. Okay? Now, they're not totally submerged, but you get the idea. That will go into a bowl of water and you just sit there. All right, next, our green onion. I was talking about the dill. The green, the dill is sort of it's a choice. It's an overpowering flavor. It can be to some people if you don't like it. So you can skip it or not. I did want to say one other thing. The middle leaves of the celery stalk right here are a lovely little addition. Never throw these out. You can put them on top of salads, but just a nice little, what we call a chiffonade, a very, very, very thin slice of that, and the equivalent of maybe one green onion top. I avoid putting the whites in. If you can avoid putting the whites, great, because that can be a little bit strong. If you really like the onion flavor, then you can. It's a matter of choice. But you can also use chives. I have chives going in the next recipe. But I think that green onions are probably, well, certainly they're cheaper, and probably people are going to have green onions a bit more often than they're going to have chives on hand. That is my salad. So at this point, it's just a question of stirring and bringing it all together. And I can tell, and I'm glad I got the consistency right. So this is very moist and very creamy because of what we've done with the yolks in the dressing. However, it also still has structure. It's not really loose and soupy. And I think that's also a very important part of a good egg salad sandwich, because you don't want to take a bite and have it all squirt out the other side. You want to have a little bit of structure. And you know, I could even show you that a little bit more clearly by put it on the top of the spoon, and it just sort of holds its shape. But you also have that lovely golden color, and you've done that by mashing the yolks into the dressing. So that, to me, my chef at the Savoy would like that. Yeah, I would not get in trouble. Any day you didn't get in trouble at the Savoy was a good day. White bread, well, it's a bit traditional. A lot of people use white bread. I'm going to use it today. White bread's not allowed in my house. It's whole wheat all the time. But white bread on an egg salad sandwich is definitely lovely. And this is an important step. You do have to butter. Butter is important for an egg salad because of the fact that you have that sort of wet interior. And what this does, the layer of fat protects the bread from getting soggy. Okay. Nice generous amount right in the middle. And we're actually going to do this afternoon tea style, if you will. And we're going to trim the crusts off, make it look really fancy. All right. I'm just going to put this in the shade. All right. Over here. Down. Serrated knife, very important. And here's a little trick. Even with a serrated knife, even with a sharp serrated knife, don't go too hard at it. Use a sawing motion. Almost let the weight of the knife go through the bread. If you're too damaging or too rough with it, even with a good knife, you can sort of ruin the appearance of the sandwich. So when I cut tea sandwiches at the Savoy, you had a couple of necessary tools. You had to have a towel, you had to have a serrated knife, and of course you have to have a plate. So what we would do is you use a light sawing motion, let everything fall off, and then you get a nice clean edge. But here's the thing, don't go like that. He made us clean the blade every single solitary time to make sure that there was no egg salads filling on the top of the sandwich. Clean the salad off. Clean the blade. You sort of have to take your time with it. Clean the blade. Now, we'd probably get 3 out of this, but I'm just going to do 2, cut it in half. And There's your sandwich. So that is the way I was taught many years ago to make an egg salad sandwich. There you go. Beautiful. And of course, thank you. Thank you very much. This is the really important part, a little trick, you know, if you're, for all you home cooks, always feed yourself. It's very important. You need energy to get through the day, you know? Very important. I didn't check, you know what I didn't do? This is bad. I should have said, I didn't check my seasoning in the filling. I guessed at it, but I didn't check it. That's a very important part of cooking. Always check and be tasting all the time. Season your food. I didn't do that. Probably because I'm talking too much. Next, lobster deviled eggs. Now what's nice about this recipe is that it actually uses a lot of the same ingredients. We're just going to combine them a little bit differently again. And I do have cooked lobster. Now, let's say, you know, lobster, as we all know, there's a lot of, I'm going to flip this over actually just to make sure we're a clean surface to cut on here. A lot of costs of going up in the world. Lobster is one of them. Food is expensive. So one of the things that I try to do, because I enjoy good food, is I try to come up with ways that you can get the flavors and you can have some experiences of great ingredients and good food, but you don't obviously have to eat a ton of it. As an example, you know, when my family, when we grill steak, like we don't do like 4 big 10-ounce strip loins like we might have in the past. We'll get one steak and then we'll carve it and put it on a platter and surround it with vegetables or top it with mushrooms. And then you end up eating less of the expensive item and increase your vegetables, kind of is the way we do it. Eggs are a wonderful way to, you know, expand your diet and to feed a lot of people inexpensively. This is a lovely appetizer. It's very simple to do. And the meat that's used in this recipe is maybe the meat from one small lobster that nowadays might cost you $8. So if you're having a party, for example, you can serve a lovely lobster dish as opposed to maybe serving some, you know, a lobster, even chowder, where you might spend $60 or $70 on lobster for that chowder. So this is nothing wrong with that, but I always look for ways to be creative to expand and extend ingredients so you can feed people in your family a little bit more economically. So again, we're going to start the same way here with a clean knife, and this time we are going to, actually I'm going to take my plate out because I'm going to build these as we go. So I'll do 6 of these. Again, we're going to make the dressing separately. This time, because we're serving in the shell, we just want to be a little bit more gentle when we're pulling those out. There you go. That one broke. That happens. Sometimes the yolk is actually so close to the white, it's sort of unstable. But that's fine. We'll just grab another one. Okay. Gentle. There we go. All right. I'm going to grab my fork again, which, well, I just made it. I don't think you'll mind. All the same ingredients are going in this for the most part. We're going to mash this again. We're going to basically make a very simple filling for this. And again, the same with our egg salad. What we really want to do here is we want to impart a lot of flavor and get it really intensely flavored, but we can't water it down too much. It's got to have some structure. Otherwise, it'll just plunk. You want it to pile up in that egg. I'm going in with a little bit Dijon mustard again. Mayo, but far less mayo this time. Just about a teaspoon or so. Maybe, sorry, I guess a tablespoon. Lemon is very important in this. So I make a little lemon cheek. So instead of cutting through the middle, you just cut on the outside. And then you give it a squeeze and you sort of create this little lemon boat. And you get more control over where your juice is falling. Little trick there. It's called a lemon cheek. And you want this nice and lemony. Obviously with seafood like lobster, it goes really well. Touch of paprika is nice here. A little touch. We want our salt, our pepper, and then we're going to bring it all together. So, what I'm going to do this time, which I didn't do last time, is check my seasoning here. Now, I cooked this lobster in salted water, so I know that the lobster is seasoned fairly well, but it's not overly seasoned. I'm just going to put that little extra bit of mustard in there. It can't hurt. And I'm going to check for salt. So the way we usually taste, especially nowadays in COVID, you don't go off the spoon, you go onto your hand. It's good, but it needs more lemon, more salt, more pepper, and another little squeeze of lemon. Let's put that there. Mix that up. And now we're going to go in with our lobster. So here I have about a half a cup of finely chopped lobster. What I do have, which is a nice special, it's a female lobster, so I had the roe. So I crumbled the roe in it, and that's that sort of like really dark red fleck in there, which is going to make these look really, really pretty. I'm going to dump that in. And now chives. A gentle, subtle sort of oniony flavor is what's needed here. Raw onion would just completely overpower it. Even green onion. Not that green onions would be bad, but much larger. This is sort of a dainty, elegant little appetizer. So this is going to be a nicer way to impart some oniony zip to this. I'm putting about a tablespoon in there, and then fold it all together. Now, deviled eggs often have vinegar, and I've just opted to not put the vinegar here because I just wanted the freshness of the lemon to come through. And again, I think we're looking very good here because I would really like to rinse this off. Let me try to rinse this off here. This smaller spoon will allow me to fill the eggs a little bit easier. So, as I look at this, you see that it's got nice structure to it. Beautiful colors, the little flecks of red, the little flecks of green, the golden egg. It's actually a very, very attractive little preparation. And you want to be generous with this. So, forgive my fingers. You want to really pile this up so it holds its shape really well. There you go. And when it's all filled and all said and done, a little garnish of fresh herb. Certainly the dill would be lovely again if you wanted to put that on there, if you like the flavor of dill. And if you want to garnish with a couple of individual pieces of chive would also be really lovely there. You can sort of get creative. You could even put some bacon bits on the top of it, would be nice. And if you have the cooked lobster, you can see how quickly this comes together. You know, this could be a nice picnic like we're doing today. It could be an appetizer for a fancy dinner party. We'll just put a little bit more of the green on the top there. Beautiful. And you can certainly come and have a peek and see the consistency of everything, but there is our lobster deviled egg with beautiful Nova Scotia eggs. Thank you very much. Now, I think that's my time, and I did pretty good. I stayed right to 30 minutes. Right, I said 30 minutes. But I'd love to answer any questions if you have them, so feel free. We'll do a little Q&A. Yes, my dear. She forgot? Okay, no problem. No problem. Yes. Well, thank you very much. But I hear you are too. This is Mary. What was your second name? I'm sorry. Mary Grace. Mary Grace gave me 2 recipes to take home today. 2 of my son's favorite recipes, and we're going to make them together. So thank you very much again for that, Mary Grace. It's very kind of you. Thank you. Thanks, folks. Well, if there are no other questions, I hope you enjoy the farm. I hope you enjoy the day. Thank you so much to all the folks at Meet Your Farmer, to Egg Farmers of Nova Scotia for always having me. I love being an egg ambassador here in this beautiful province and in Canada. And now I'm the #1 fan of this incredible museum. So thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, and have a lovely sunny day. Cheers. Thank you. Sure. You know what? How about we do that?
Oh my goodness, aren't they pretty?
Yeah, they look nice, don't they? Oh, I feel like a rock star here. Holy moly. I had to come to Coal Harbour to be a rock star. I love it. Yeah, they look nice. You know, very simple, but a few little tricks that make it extra special. Thank you very much.